Well, here we are. Hello, Greg.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, it seems like Groundhog Day. It's another week gone by, although we are going a little later this week.
We are. We had some scheduling challenges this week, so we pushed back a couple days. Um,
Yeah,
but
some
we're still here.
missed us, but we're here now.
Yeah, yeah.
So how you doing?
I'm doing well. I am doing well. It's a beautiful day here in Minnesota. The sun is shining.
Yeah, same
But
here in New York. It's love this time of year. It's been very interesting. This whole last week to 10 days, we had no humidity.
Mm,
And it's coming. I know it's going to be here, and I'm going to say,
right.
I hate that.
Yeah.
How is it
But
in
you got to
Minnesota?
enjoy those days now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I go out every day walking, and especially when it's not raining and it's beautiful, really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
How is the weather in the summer by you?
Oh, it'll get humid. Yeah. We'll get our July and August will be humid and plenty warm. 80s, high 80s, 90 degrees is not unusual.
And it's not that hot. It's the humidity that bothers me.
Right,
I don't
right.
I don't mind the hot. I hate the humidity.
Yeah.
So what's on
All
today?
right. Two old
What's
guys
on?
talking about the weather is not why people tuned in today.
No, I don't think so either. Reminds me of my mother. Everything was about the weather. The weather, be careful. It's raining out. It's snowing. Don't go anywhere. Hide somewhere. Don't go anywhere. Oh boy. So what's on this week's agenda? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so Keith, we've got a topic I think that's of interest to business owners, and it is we're going to talk a little bit about branding, both personal and professional, in the digital age. So I've got some questions for you because I think this is an area that's right up your alley. I think it's an area that you've spent a lot of time working on, developing, coaching others.
Yes.
So just, start out, just tell us a little bit, Keith, give us a couple minute overview of just what do people mean when they talk about branding? And you can talk about both a personal brand and a professional brand, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So a little history because personal branding, okay, wasn't as prevalent, before the digital age. Now, if you think of a personal brand, um, like entertainers have their own personal brand, athletes have their own personal brand. But
Sure.
from a business owner's perspective, you weren't promoting your personal brand, you're promoting your business.
Yeah.
Now, you may be the face of the business, okay, so your personal or personality is what drives, a business success, and I've talked about this in previous episodes where you're selling yourself, so you are selling a personal brand. So is that distinction between selling you and selling the product or selling the company's brand name? You take a brand like Nike or Apple. I mean, these are global brands.
Mhm.
Everybody knows. Now, when they first got started, they had no brand recognition. Okay. And little history about, did you see the movie about Nike with Air
No, I
Jordan?
haven't. I haven't.
Oh, it was a great movie. It was Matt Damon was in it, and so was Ben
Ben
Affleck.
Affleck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, Nike was nothing, okay, with trying to compete with Adidas. And then Jordan came along and became the face of the brand.
Mhm.
So here's an example of a brand, Nike, and a person, Michael Jordan, that merged together to make Nike what it is today.
And
So
yet Michael Jordan wasn't the owner of Nike. He wasn't
no,
he didn't really have any he didn't run Nike. But I
no,
think what you're suggesting is that there's in most businesses these days, there is a professional brand, but also a personal brand, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, so again, so it's like you think about a spokesperson. You think about, do you remember the commercial from, I don't know if it's the 80s or the 90s with the old lady and the hamburgers? I forget what the
The
tagline
Wendy's
was.
commercial,
What was it?
the
Wendy.
Wendy's commercial.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Now she became the face of Wendy's during that period of time. I'm sure she had a very long time, but needless to say, you can build a persona, attach it to your brand to build brand awareness. Now, Nike, attached Michael, everyone knew Michael Jordan was going to be a superstar coming out of North Carolina. But what Nike realized, and they were competing with Adidas. I mean, Michael wanted to go with Adidas, and of course, Nike wanted him bad. You really should watch the movie. I don't want to give it all away because it's really a great movie. But yes, he didn't own Nike, but he made Nike. I mean, he's probably made $1 billion off of his Nike utilizing his brand to build their own
Sure.
brand.
Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm
Yes.
sure he.
So when that's Michael Jordan has his own personal brand. He
Sure.
is a brand unto himself.
So Keith, talk up a little bit about, okay, we've talked about kind of some big companies, famous individuals. If I'm a small business owner, I've got a company that's got 25, 50 employees. Yeah, my clients probably know who I am as the business owner, but what can I do from a personal branding, or what would you suggest somebody do from a personal branding standpoint in that kind of situation? They obviously aren't going to be professional basketball players or somebody famous. What can they do to develop both their personal and professional brand?
Great question. So when you first start a business, okay, and you open up and you call it whatever the name is, let's say Focal Point when it was first starting. Nobody heard of Focal Point. What is it?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, in fact, the founder of Focal Point was Brian Harvey, right?
Brian Tracy.
Tracy, I was close.
Yeah.
Brian Tracy. Um, he was a well-known entity at the time. He had already built a personal brand.
Mhm.
And he attached his personal brand. It's like, if it was Focal Point, Greg Johnson just started, you'd have no edge in the marketplace. You'd have to
Right.
be building up what does it mean to buy a Focal Point franchise? Okay, I built a franchise called iSupply. Okay, now it was an eyeglass store, sold eye care services and eyeglasses and anything to do with eye care services. Now the brand iSupply, okay, was the company brand. It was on the store. You drove by, you saw iSupply. You saw a newspaper article, with a coupon for iSupply. We eventually, because I opened up multiple stores, we hired an agency, an advertising, a marketing agency to help build a company brand. Now, how was I thinking about me as a personal brand back then? The answer is no, it was not. And the reason for that is because one, I was one person in one store. And when I expanded, okay, I was not in those other stores. So I needed to build iSupply as the brand so that the consumer would recognize iSupply. It's like, oh, there's another iSupply. Oh, where's iSupply? Oh, iSupply's in Oceanside, they're in Bayside, they're in Montauk, all these places that I had locations. So I focused my attention and my marketing on the corporate brand. Now, in the store that I was in, I was the personal brand for iSupply. And looking back now in terms of, and knowing now what I didn't know then, I would have focused more on my franchise concept of building the person who was representing the brand within that location. Because businesses are as successful as the people that run the company. You know, you
Right.
be successful if you don't, one, put out a good product or service, you don't treat your customers right, you know, there's that building of the company brand and who's behind the company brand. So you could have, you know, and I'm gonna use again a Nike or an Apple because these are major brands who have expanded into retail,
Sure.
right? And I say retail, I mean bricks and mortar retail. And if you go to one Apple store as opposed to another Apple store, you may not get the same experience. Now, that all has to do with the brand itself and the building of the brand, what you can expect when you walk into an Apple store. You know, there's a way that people get greeted, there's a way that people get spoken to. You know, there's a way that they lead them to look at products, to explain benefits, to explain that this month's special. You know, that's all training, okay? But
Right.
that goes towards the brand building because the brand experience should be the same no matter where you go.
Sure.
You
Sure.
know, so that's the corporate brand building as opposed to the people brand building. Now, if there was a spokesperson, you know, let's say in the case of Apple, when Steve Jobs was still alive,
Right.
everyone knew who Steve Jobs was.
Yeah,
They
they did.
knew that he was going to have this annual event and he was going to launch whatever new products that they have. People in the tech world would look forward to that. He was the personal part of the brand. So they were synonymous. Steve Jobs, Apple. You
Mhm.
know, Bill Gates, Microsoft. You know,
Sure.
um, Facebook and what's his
Mark
name?
Zuckerberg.
Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
So it's always the combination of a brand, you know, as its separate entity and a face that's attached to the brand. And generally, it's the person who started the company,
Right. The founder. Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
founder. But if the founder is successful, it's because he was able to build the brand and the vision to be consistent across every user experience. So it didn't
Mhm.
matter if you were online buying Microsoft products or you went into a Microsoft store. I don't know if they still have stores or I know they had stores. I don't know if they still do, but
Right. I don't know if they have brick and mortar anymore, but yeah,
yeah, but
certainly online.
that's for sure. So you know, but think of it from like a food franchise, a Burger King or a McDonald's, Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, there's a consistency in the brand vision that runs across the whole system. Now, where does that fall apart at times? When you expand, if the experience is not the same. Let's say in you know, if you bought a Burger King franchise, they have a way of doing business, okay, way to cook the burgers, a way to cook the French fries, you know, the way to, you know, deal with customers at the register, you know, how to say, oh, welcome to Burger King, how may I help you today? I mean, which is a standard. This is all like studied, designed, put in a book, and here's your policies and procedures of how to run a Burger King franchise.
And don't you think, Keith, that's one of the, we've seen kind of this popularity of franchising take place over the last many years. And don't you think that's part of what's driving it is the ability to kind of have this consistent experience when you're
Absolutely.
working with that company, regardless of the physical location?
Yeah, it's the brand confidence. It's like, oh, that's Focal Point. Yeah, okay, I've heard of Focal Point. Right
Mhm.
away, you are now associated with a brand that's recognized.
Right.
gives you leverage in the marketplace, as opposed to, Greg Johnson's coaching. Okay,
Right,
who's Greg Johnson? Now, that doesn't mean you can't build up your own personal brand.
absolutely,
World
right.
of coaching,
Yep.
and at some point, focal point brand will be less important once the Greg Johnson personal brand has been built up to the point that you have references, you have referrals, you have history of success. So,
Sure,
it's like if you look at a balancing scale, okay, focal points up here, Greg Johnson's down here. Little by little, at some point, they meet, they're equal. And at some point, Greg Johnson is like, oh yeah, call Greg. Greg's great.
sure,
My business
sure.
was suffering, my sales were down, my operation, Greg Johnson, he's your guy,
Yep.
Now, early on, you can't do that. When I opened the eye supply, nobody knew eye supply. It was another eyeglass store,
Right,
I know I could get eyeglasses. I know I can get my eyes examined. I get sunglasses. I get contact lenses. So those are the things that are easily understood on the branding side, because no one's thinking of Keith or Aline. They're thinking, oh, I just passed by, or I saw an ad in the paper. I need glasses. It's close to home. It's not the first interaction that builds a business, although it's the first impression that gets somebody to want to come back and refer people. So you
sure.
heard me say this, you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression,
You're right.
So
I love that saying.
yeah, because it's so true. If you and we've all had the experience, you go into a place and the service is horrible. No one says hello to you. Or you get a reservation for 6 o'clock and it's 6:45 and you're still waiting.
Right,
And you walk over to the person who's at the, I had a 6 o'clock reservations. Reservations, they don't matter. Oh, I'm so sorry, we're a little behind. Well, not a little behind, you're 45 minutes behind. Now, if I was running that restaurant, first thing I would do is I'll acknowledge the problem. I would walk over to the customer that's waiting, apologize. Let me get your drink, okay? We're behind. That's on us, okay?
Yep.
So
Yep.
what would you like from the bar? Let me get your drink for you and your wife, or you and your group.
Mhm.
You have to always be thinking about the customer's experience, even if there's something that went wrong. People will accept something that didn't go right. One, if you take responsibility. Two, you do something about it. Maybe you say, when they're done for the evening. See, I'm big on like at the end of that meal, after I gave them the drinks in the beginning, I'd give them free dessert at the end. I would be and apologizing, like, thank you so much. Okay. I know this was not the kind of experience that you're used to, or this is your first time here and I feel terrible. I don't
Yeah.
want this to be what you remember. I want you to remember that, one, we care. Okay. We know that it's unfortunate that this happened, but we really appreciate your business and I hope you'll, come back. So I mean, there are things you can do to solve problems, but you always got to be thinking of the brand reputation.
I really like how you're tying that together, Keith. The brand and the experience that people have on a day-to-day basis. I think a lot of times business owners think of branding as something that, is kind of up at a very high level. And that they maybe do a branding exercise and then they feel like they're done with it. But I think what you're saying is it really ties, whatever that brand identification is, it really ties into the daily, weekly, monthly activities of the business.
Yeah, because again, it comes down to consistency of what you do. So, if you sell a product, okay, whether you've created that product yourself or you're selling somebody else's product, you're still representing a product. If that product is garbage, okay, guess whose brand is getting hurt by that?
Yeah.
It's yours. And you can say, well, no, I got it from this manufacturer, John Stone's, accessories, and it's not my fault. It's theirs. That no. You sold the product. You
Yeah.
represented that product. You stand behind whatever you do in business. I mean, that's how
You,
you
you,
build a brand.
yeah, you think of like a distributor or a retailer, right? A retailer, if I walk into Home Depot or Ace Hardware and I buy a product there, it's not their product. They didn't make it. They're just selling it. But their reputation's at stake. If I buy something at those stores and it doesn't work the way I think it's going to, all of a sudden I bought this at Home Depot and it doesn't work. It
Yeah,
doesn't
right.
matter really what the name on the product is. I'm
I don't care.
associating it with the
Home Depot
Home Depot.
sucks, I'd be saying. I bought the, well, okay, but there's another side to that because one of the things I loved in business was problems. Does that sound crazy? Why would you love problems in business? You ready for the answer?
Please.
Okay. Problems or opportunities to separate yourself from your competition.
Well said.
Most people do not solve problems well. They see problems as the customer is the problem, not them. Oh, that customer's a pain in the neck. No, that customer helps pay the bills. And every customer that you disappoint could tell a lot of people how bad you are.
Right.
It's interesting because a very happy customer will refer you, but an unhappy customer will make sure many more people know the experience they had.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I was successful in business was because of my attention to the customer. The customer was always right. Even though there were times where I had a cringe, and I said, this is not a nice person. This is somebody that, what I'd like to say and what I'm going to say are two different things. But I always thought of the bigger picture. I thought that if I don't satisfy this person, one, they're never coming back. That means I lose them, their family, their friends, friends, because there's a trickle-down effect that happens, or I should say a domino effect, because everything falls from there. One bad customer could lose you 100.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
people don't understand that. You build a business off of reputation. Okay, your reputation is everything. You have a great reputation, it will resonate with everyone. And part of that story I just said about liking problems, I would love when I had a store full of people, okay, and somebody would come in and they were all pissed off and they want to make a noise, and I would totally deflate them. No problem. Like I had some, and they invariably come in with something that you knew they sat on their glasses. Some was all these are hurting me. I've never been happy. I take with store full people, take them, throw them in the garbage, and say, let's pick out something new. Now, what do they say to that?
Yeah. There's not much they can say, right? Because you're taking care of their problem and you're addressing their issue. Yeah.
I didn't fight with them. I didn't say, oh, you're an idiot.
But Keith, I think, it's interesting because as you tell that story, you're not concerned about that particular transaction, whether you're making money, not making money. You're concerned about your brand, and that's protecting the brand, and really not just protecting it, but even building it up by how you react to that unhappy client.
I had two choices when that person walks in the door. I could fight with them and say, it's obvious you sat on these glasses. Okay, what are you talking about? You think I'm stupid? You think I'm born yesterday? And there are a lot of people who will take that position because they need to be right. Okay. In business, you don't need to be right. You need to be smart. Okay. And I recognized very early in my career that one interaction, positive, because I did the right thing. One, I saved the customer. There's no way they're going to think that I'm not going back to that guy, because they already know the worst thing that could happen, which is they came in with a chip ready for a fight, and I totally deflated the situation, and I did right by them. So what are they going to do? They're going to come back. The family's going to come back. they're gonna refer, if someone says, hey, where'd you get your glasses? Those are, oh, you gotta go see Keith. Great, and they're not even gonna say, go see Eye Supply. They're gonna say, go see Keith. Because I built my personal brand on service.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you see how close personal and professional brands are in terms of building the business.
Right. Right. And Keith, talk a little bit now, one of the challenges today, I think, in the few minutes we got left is, building a brand when in this digital era, when we're on the web, when we're, when so much transactions are and so much business is getting done over the internet. How does that change your perception or your outlook on brand building? What does it complicate it? Does it simplify things? What are the things that a business owner needs to be thinking about?
Oh, by the way, it's interesting. It's complicated and and it can be simplified if you take the same concepts. So I take everything from a physical world to a virtual world. What do I expect my experience to be? So if I'm in the physical world, which I'm old enough to be able to, explain all that I've experienced in that world pre-digital, and I then take it into the digital world, okay, I'm able to think about it. Okay, what do I want to experience when I click onto a website? Okay, do I feel like there's a care about my experience? User experience is very much talked about in the digital world. What is the user experience? And when people build applications, the success of that application has everything to do with user experience. And I'm sure you've experienced, you go onto a site and it's like, you were looking for, I don't know, whatever product you were looking for, let's say clothing. And you get there and you don't even see clothing there. They're trying to sell you something else before you even get to it's so confusing and it's just, you're not led in a direction that's comfortable. So now there's nobody stepping out from behind the counter and saying, Mr. Johnson, how are you today? But there is a way to digitally create an experience, okay, that you're led in the direction of what needs to be done. You're comfortable. It's easily, if I searched for shoes, okay, I'm not going to go to the homepage. Good companies that build websites properly, they take you to what you're looking for. Okay, it's like you mentioned Home Depot. You walk in the Home Depot, unless you're there all the time, you have no idea where I need lumber, I need paint. It's like, all right, what aisle do I go down? And there's always where would I find lumber? Okay, now in the digital world, okay, I don't want to have to. I don't want to go to a site, get to the homepage, and have to find where I can find paint or lumber, because you can also buy that stuff online, have it shipped.
Absolutely.
But if I search for lumber, and you'll see all the good companies do it right, and I want to see lumber, and Home Depot comes up on the list, I click on that link. It's not taking me to the homepage with 5,000 products. It's taking me to the page with lumber products. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's not the same experience as, and I actually love the old school experience of human interaction, but it's the world we live in now. So, and you'll see great companies who even have, brick and mortar locations. They also have a digital presence and a digital experience, whether it's informational or just e-commerce. So it's all intertwined. But then this servicing part, the checkout, was it an easy process? Did I have to have 10 steps before I got to make my purchase? And this is stuff that people much smarter than I or you can understand on such a very heavy level, that they can actually design things based on, human experience. They study it. I mean, it's just that simple.
Sure. But And you're right, as business owners, you know, most of us aren't capable of creating that kind of website, but we can communicate with somebody who can, and we can let them know what we want the experience to be like. And I think what I'm hearing you say is you really have the ability to create a very personal experience, even using websites and technology that exists today. It's not the same as you said, that one-on-one human interaction, but certainly there's ways of creating that an experience that is still a customer walks away feeling good about the transaction or the interaction they had with your company, whether it's in person or whether it's online.
Yeah, because again, you're creating an experience. So you can, and we live in like a virtual world right now. And I do believe AI is taking us in a direction where the shopping experience is going to be almost like you're in a brick and mortar location. You'll have an avatar, that comes up that's lifelike, that's basically programmed to answer your questions. Hi, I'm looking for lumber. Oh, let me take you there right now. I'm talking about a virtual person. And they actually walk you to that place and they ask you, well, what are you looking for? Whatever the questions are, that is coming. It is no doubt in my mind we're probably there right now, but not there on a level that's, ready for prime time.
Well, I was going to say, there's websites now where I can virtually try on glasses.
That's right.
I can virtually see what a product is going to look like in my home.
Yep.
A table, a desk, a couch. Yep. I can virtually, there's companies out there that are selling tailor-made clothing online because they're getting the measurements, off of my phone as to how tall I am and that sort of thing. So there's you're dead on in the fact that all of that seems to be coming to a head here in the next short little while. Not 10 years from now, but a year or two from now.
I would say that the next level, because yes, you could do a lot of those things virtually, but there'll come a point where I'll be able to develop my personality using, through questions and answers and like we're doing right now, and they'll create my persona so that knowing how I answer things, how I speak, how I talk, how I smile, and it'll be the virtual Keith or the virtual Greg that is going to be answering those questions. So when they actually do meet you, it's like,
right.
Was that you or was that your whatever that your avatar? So it's fascinating. It's scary. It's like
Well, Keith, this was a really good discussion.
I
As usual, we didn't plan real far in advance on this topic, but we always find ways to I think have a good discussion, and I hope folks who watch this find it valuable as well.
Well, I hope so too, and I believe they will. And it's always good to talk about things that you're passionate about and that you enjoy. And I hope that comes across that we enjoy talking to each other. So I'm sure that comes across as well. And part of this is to give education to those who are interested.
Absolutely.
All right, my friends. So
right.
Until next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks.
All right.